Hey everyone, I'm Armor Gaming. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to a monster analysis on Inquisitor Fulmen. Inquisitor Fulmen was a full-time priest and custodian of the Angel's Book and Prayers until Elvira decided that it was a waste for him to keep all this knowledge to himself and she called him to the ranks. And so Inquisitor Fulmen is one of the newest and latest light legendary monsters, and let me just start off this video by saying I am normally very against tanks. I have a bias against tanks because I feel that in the majority of the game they're not that usable. Like, yes, they can be put on defense, but they're so easy to exploit, especially being able to possess them, being able to freeze them, being able to stun them, being able to just abuse them by applying a torture status effect like a burn, a sunlight, reducing their accuracy, total blinding them. Like, there's so much you can do to tanks because they're pretty slow. So if you can just eliminate the enemy denier and it's only the tank and the attacker left, the chances are you're pretty much going to dominate the game. And even in terms of from an offensive point of view, if you have a tank, you probably don't get to capitalize on using the tank because you have a denier to deny, and then you have an attacker like a Voltic, a Charmless, a Barbatos, any attacker really, and you pretty much go for an OTK, or you just deal so much damage to the enemy that the tank doesn't really get utilized. Unless it's a tank like a tank that can revive, because then you want that in case something goes wrong. But usually tanks, they don't get utilized that much, at least from my experience. You might have a different experience, but I just want to preface the video with that bias because I gotta say, this monster really impresses me. And I might be one of the few that actually loves this design. I love it so much. I think it's a great design. Social Point is doing something right with these monsters. And then stats wise, I gotta say I'm pretty blown away too. It's almost like the Social Point realized the War Masters are incredibly incredible. And now every new like monster that gets released, like Lady Solaris, like Toshiro, like Jalotron, they have to be up to like War Master standard without obviously being better than War Master. But seriously, like the stats I'm seeing, the traits, everything I'm seeing about the new monsters is so mind-blowing. We're in like the next generation. And I say this from the perspective of someone that hasn't been keeping up too much with the new monsters because I'm like, well, I can't even get them. Why bother? But then when I look into them, I'm like, wait, this monster can do what? Wait, this monster's immune to everything? Wait, this monster has an area skill and he's not a War Master? Wait, what's going on? What is this skill? What is this trait? I'm having the most fun with Monster Legends, even though I'm not too much involved with it. But with that being said, I'm rambling. Let's talk about his stats. First of all, his power is 3421, which is a really great stat. It actually puts him in 16th place, and you're probably thinking like, Armor, I thought you said it was a great stat. No, it is. He's in 16th place in the light category. However, the stat itself is the 6th highest stat in the light category. The average power stat for light legendary monsters is 3,319, so this is well above average. The life stat is 42,223. Let me highlight that, 42,223. This is the highest life stat in the light category. Higher than Scotty Veta, higher than Lum, the Nemesis monster. He has a really crazy high life stat. And even when you take a look at every single monster that's ever been released, when you take into account every legendary monster, this is the 3rd highest life stat. It's 3rd only to Fatid, who has a life stat of 45,000, Garrus, who has a life stat of 42,525, and so Garrus beat Fulmen by just 2 points. So he's super tanky. And then after him, he actually beat War Master Barbell, who has a life stat of 41,319. Crazy life stat, good power stat. And then what's more impressive is that normally, and you guys have heard me say this multiple times, when you have a super tanky monster, they tend to be slow. That is not the case with this monster. His speed stat is 3454. That is fast. That is fast for a tank. Now in the light category, you might not think it's fast because it puts him in 13th place, but the stat itself is the 7th highest stat in the light category. However, once again, and there's multiple ways to compare monsters, I like comparing by element, but in terms of being a tank, I mentioned Fatid. Fatid is slow. He has a speed of 3,069. What about Garrus? Garrus is also very slow. He has a speed stat of 2926. Super slow monsters. Barbell, the War Master, he has a fast speed stat of 3575, and that was because he got buffed. If it was before the buff, Inquisitor Fulmen would have been faster than him. We look at other tanks like Okiawa, Tenkerion, Crowton. They're also slow. Okiawa has 3157, Tenkerion 3091, Crowton 3003. So as far as tanks go, he's a fast tank with a good power stat. He's great. And then his trait, his trait is incredible. First of all, he has Harden, 20% chance to not get immobilized, and then he gives his whole team a 50% shield. What? Like, did I read that right? He gives his team a 50% shield from the get-go. That is so incredible. especially because when we look at the kind of relics that are being released, they do so much. I mean, Jakugan Sword was already powerful, and if like that relic alone could probably kill some of your monsters after 2 hits. Now this monster is protecting his whole team just by being in the game, by giving your team a 50% shield. How is this not like a future War Master? Like if Social Blade wanted to, they could have added this trait to one of the War Masters, where it's like your whole team starts off with a 50% shield or 100% shield, but they included it on like a basic monster, which is why I really feel like every new monster that's being released has to like somewhat compete with War Masters but not be on their level. So just groundbreaking in terms of stats, in terms of trait. I love it so much. And even with the bias against tanks, this is one tank that I am really liking. And again, just to compare him to like Barbell, Barbell's power 3554, Inquisitor Fulmen 3421, so almost very similar. Life stat 41319, Fulmen 42223, speed stat 3454, Barbell 3575. So they're almost on par in terms of stats. Isn't that crazy? I don't know, I think it's crazy. And again, he's a basic monster, he's not a War Master. You don't have to pay 2300 gems to get him at level 100. You can just wait for him to be in the next round of Monsterwood videos. You can wait for his cells to be on sale. You can trade with teammates. I don't know, I am really liking this monster. And as for relics he can hold, guess what? An armor relic, which makes it even tougher to kill this monster, and a shield. That's right, Tenacity Shield. So on top of his Warcaster ability, the 50% area shield, you can give him a Tenacity Shield. And for those of you not familiar with Tenacity Shield, at the start of the battle, all allies gain 9,000 points of armor, and this is at level 1. Let's rank this bad boy to level 40. All allies gain 31 points of armor. So his own trait gives your whole team 50% shield, and now this gives your whole team an extra 31k shield. And of course, he can also hold the armor. At the start of the battle, it gains 15,000 points of armor. Let's rank up this bad boy. Look, oh wait, didn't rank it up. Let's rank up this to 40. 52k points of armor from this armor relic. 31 for your whole team. I'm just blown away like with this monster. He's a tough monster to take down. Definitely, and definitely helps that he has a hardened trait. And now let's take a look at his skills, because what is a monster without their skills? Noble Duty. Deals heavy special damage to all enemies, applies shock to all enemies, removes 100% of stamina from all enemies. I like that they kind of went with this route of a kind of a semi-deny. So 50% damage, that's nothing too incredible obviously, but it applies shock to all the enemies. So this is great because not only does it deal 5% of damage for the next 3 turns, the cool thing about shock is that it stops extra turn skills. So if you're, especially since you're a thunder monster, if you're facing a Voltic, he's not going to be able to do his extra turn skills. He's not going to be able to try to abuse you, which is awesome. And then he drains stamina. Now this isn't that powerful considering there's so many stamina relics, but it definitely helps because at the very least it exhausts the enemy stamina relics. So it's sort of a deny ultimate, I would say. I like the shock, I like the stamina drain. Let's move on. Light of Dawn. And actually this is, I've seen this monster very briefly. I saw his skills, I know what I like, but part of this is like me seeing it for the first time. So keep that in mind when I'm looking at the skills. I actually didn't look at them before recording this video. I probably looked at them a couple days ago. So let's see. Do I see anything I like? Light of Dawn, Protection. Nothing I really like here. So let's move on to skills group 2. Hammer of Virtue. Oh, I remember this. 65 damage, no cooldown, 28 stamina cost, a spammable 65 damage attack. Yes sir, any day of the week. 0 cooldown, 65 damage is such a powerful skill, especially in a world where every single monster has like a cooldown activated skill. Like seriously, Patient Cyber just got released, he has a cooldowns activated. You look at monsters in other categories, they have cooldowns activated. A skill like this is very powerful, and especially when once again you look at the monster's stats and he has a good enough power to be able to capitalize on the skill. And even though I mentioned he's a tank and you probably want to give him a life rune, there's always the argument that with all of his relics and his trait, you probably could also get away without giving this monster life rune and make him an attacker who just happens to be so darn tanky on his own. So many ways to abuse this monster. Hammer of Virtue, great skill, definitely run it. Honorable Defense applies a 50% shield, and Spirit Hater to itself requires cooldown. Another monster that hates the Spirit category. So triple damage against Spirit monsters, and a 50% shield, further adding to how difficult it is to take down this monster. I'm not sure how I feel about this skill yet, let's keep on going. Crushing Devotion, deals heavy thunder damage to one enemy, applies major damage reduction to one enemy. So major damage reduction, if I'm not mistaken, reduces the monster's damage output by 50%. I would have loved if it was 100%, but I'm pretty sure it's only 50. So it's a great skill to further increase survivability. increased tankiness. The enemy, instead of dealing 100k damage, it only deals 50k damage. It's pretty powerful in terms of reducing damage output. Let's keep on going. Healing Grace applies a 50% shield to itself, heals itself by 50%, removes negative effects from itself, requires cooldown. So between Healing Grace and Honorable Defense, ooh, look at that stamina cost, 45 and a Fortune cooldown. I would say take Healing Grace. I think it's a lot more useful because of that immediate 50% heal and that 50% shield and the fact that you remove negative effects. I think that'll come in handy more than in those situations where you fight spirit monsters, which is definitely vast. But considering this monster isn't necessarily your attacker, although I guess you could make him your attacker, you probably just want to go with the sustainability. So Healing Grace, liking that skill. I also wish it could do a little more, but I mean, hey, this is where my bias against tanks come in. In a real battle, sure, maybe you recover your life, you give yourself a medium shield, but if he's your last man standing, you'd probably still lose, because then the enemy's monsters would get like 3 or 4 turns in before you get 1 turn in. But let's move on. Righteous Defense applies taunt and damage mirror to itself, requires cooldown. Taunt and damage mirror. I love this so much. I think this is great. If you take any damage, you reflect 100% of the damage back to the enemy. So this automatically pretty much shuts down a Voltic, a Xyla, a Prince Charmless, any monster that relies on extra turn skills, because the skills are going to be directed to your Fulmen, and they can't really do anything about it, because if they keep attacking you, you're just returning damage. And especially Xyla and Voltic, who are Thunder based, you're not even dealing that much damage against Fulmen. So keep attacking him, that's fine. He'll keep reflecting, he'll out tank you, he'll out survive you, and they'll just end off dying. So Righteous Defense, great skill for this monster. And then last but definitely not least, we have Debilitating Embrace. Deals moderate thunder damage to enemies, applies daze and major damage reduction to all enemies, requires cooldown. 35 thunder based damage to all of the enemy monsters. Daze will reduce accuracy by 25% and reduce damage output by 25%, and the damage reduction will further reduce damage output by 50%. So overall, what is it? A 62.5 damage reduction and a 25% chance of reduced accuracy, or 25% accuracy reduction. Great skill. I love this. Again, further adding to the tankiness. You start off most of the games probably with Debilitating Embrace, and then thanks to your status caster, your monsters are protected. Your monsters have a 50% area shield, the monster damage output is reduced significantly, and they have accuracy reduction. And then again, you have your Tenacity Shield working for you, you have your armor working for you. Oh my goodness, this monster can do so much. Or you could always start off with Righteous Defense and just draw the attacks to you, to Fulmen, you're good to go. And then obviously if you take a lot of damage from Righteous Defense, you always have that Healing Grace to boost your spirit up, get you a 50% shield, heal your life. You can do so much with this monster. And then Crush into Volt, again you have another single damage reduction. You could also run the 65 damage skill if you want to give this monster a strength rune. So how do you want to run this monster? I think there's various ways you can go. You can give him the rainbow build. You can give him a speed rune, you can give him a strength rune to take advantage of Hammer of Virtue. It's a spammable skill. You could also sort of take advantage of Debilitating Embrace, which you definitely want to do. You don't get any extra buff from Righteous Defense if you run a strength rune or 2 or 3. So strength rune, if you're just thinking, oh, I'll deal more damage because of Righteous Defense, that's not how it works. Whatever damage you receive is what you deal, so the strength rune doesn't matter. So with that being said, the strength rune would really only help your Hammer of Virtue. So you could rainbow build him, or if you want, you could just honestly give this monster a single life and a speed and a team speed, or 2 team speed and a single life, or a team life and 2 team speed, or a team life, a single speed, and a team life. You can play around with your runes as much as you want. I'm trying to think, if I was to get this monster, I'm thinking, okay, I could use him in a battle against a Voltic. How would I go about it? If I was to use him in a Voltic, I would need this monster to go first. I would need my Inquisitor Fulmen to outspeed the enemy Voltic. I know Voltics tend to run a speed, a stamina, and a strength. So then I have to think, okay, how fast do I need to make Fulmen to outspeed Volt? I know that in terms of base speeds, Voltic outspeeds Fulmen. So if both of my monsters were to have a level X rune, then I know Voltic would always outspeed my Fulmen. So I would probably have to give my Inquisitor Fulmen 2 speed runes to be able to outspeed Voltic, especially when, if I was to get Fulmen, I would probably only have him at level 100, whereas the enemy Voltic would probably have him at 130. So maybe if I'm specifically trying to counter a Voltic and I don't have a Faraday, and I don't have a faster Voltic, maybe you would give this monster 2 speed runes and a single life rune, and you'd want to start the game off immediately with Righteous Defense to apply that taunt, to protect your other monsters, to do that damage mirror. So you could always mold a monster specifically to fit your team combination, specifically to fit whatever playing style you have, whatever league you're in. Leagues are especially important because you're not going to run the same rune setup against a 130 Voltic as you would for a level 100 Voltic. You're not going to run the same setup when you know you can go first with your denier, as opposed to when the enemy always goes first and you need a way to win even when the enemy goes first. So yeah, it's totally up to you. I think the most common would be the rainbow build, or scrap the strength rune and just play around with speed, team speed, life, maybe even team life. Again, the fact that your trait gives your whole team a 50% area shield, maybe team life might be better than a single life, so you can just keep on protecting your team or maximize that protection. I would have really liked if this monster had more of a shield, another like team shield, a 50% shield even. I would have loved that. I guess the closest we have is Debilitating Embrace, which again reduces damage output and reduces accuracy. Great skill. And overall, I do really like this tank. I think he's going to be a valuable monster on defense. If you get hit with Debilitating Embrace from the get-go, you are in trouble. You're going to have to use a turn removing negative effects. Or if the enemy does Righteous Defense, you're still kind of in trouble because you're going to be attacking him and you probably don't want to attack him because he's super tanky and you'd rather kill someone else. And then if he's running a Strength rune, you have to worry about that 65 damage 0 cooldown skill because you can't hit him with cooldowns activated. And so it's really going to be interesting to see what skill set people end up using for this monster. I think these two skills are no-brainers, Righteous Defense and Debilitating Embrace. And then I feel like Healing Grace is also going to be one of the most ran skills. And then you're going to see variations between Hammer of Virtue, maybe Crushing Devotion, or maybe Honorable Defense. Because if you have a 50% shield here, a 50% shield here, and then a taunt skill here, if you were to run these three skills that do 50% shields and then the taunt damage mirror, that's a 75% chance of helping yourself if you were to get possessed. So even being possessed isn't that much of a problem. And even if you run two of them, Healing Grace and Righteous Defense, again, being possessed, not an issue. You might end up healing yourself and give yourself a shield. You might end up using taunt. So in defense, great monster. It's gonna be a hard monster to take down for sure. Yeah, you can hit him with all the DLTs in the world, and maybe he just does Healing Grace, and your DLTs are gone. He has a shield. He has 50% of his life recovered. He's gonna be a tough monster to take down, especially if you ever run into him fully ranked up at 130 with a single. Yeah, I think you definitely want to give this monster a single speed just so he can get a couple turns in. Because if you give him all team speed or something, 2 team speed and a life, then I think it's easier to abuse him. But if he's like on par with other monsters, he's gonna be a tough monster to take down. So overall, really like Inquisitor Fulmen. Really liked also Lady Solaris. Hopefully you guys have seen that monster analysis. But now I want to hear from all of you guys. What do you guys think about this monster? What do you think about this what appears to be this new generation of monsters that I think started off with Toshiro? No, with Jellotron. I think from the release of Jellotron and onwards, these new monsters have been something else. But anyhow, that's just my personal thought. That's my monster analysis, and I want to hear from all of you guys. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you all next time.